Yo, what's going on everyone and welcome back to another breakdown video. So today I sent you guys free signals, and if you guys are inside our free Telegram channel, if you guys are not, just make sure to click the link down below. But if you guys are inside the free Telegram channel, you guys saw every single trade that we took this morning. I sent you guys this morning like 4 to 5 signals, and pretty much each one of them played out very nice. We took one during the London session, and we also started pretty much finished them during the New York session, right? So we're gonna start off from the first trade that we took this morning. So pretty much let's go all the way back up here, right? We also took some losses here and there, but overall we did close out the day very profitable. I'm gonna show you guys as well the profit that I made in my account. This morning, or pretty much through the entire day, I closed out at $5,682. So if you guys are able to see that, $5,682. And once again, this is the account that I use, and this is the profit that we pretty much made today, 5,600. Beautiful. And yes, obviously you guys can see there is the losses here and there. You guys can see the losses, and then you guys can overall see the wins of the day. So let me show you guys the first trade that we took this morning, right? Or today, that was last night during the London session. So we had a buy limit set at 46.77. This was 12.04. And then we also had a buy position set at 46.96, right? So the buy limit was pretty much overall the idea, which was after price session had a huge push towards the upside, right? Yesterday during the VIP, right? I was trading yesterday with the VIP on Monday. Yesterday was also a bank holiday, so the volume was kind of choppy, right? As you guys can see, the volume was kind of choppy, but we were overall looking for buying position, right? Yesterday inside the VIP, we were only able to catch over a 150 pip move, which did over a 101.5 risk to reward, right? But overall, if you guys can pretty much see the market gap open during Sunday, right, which is when the market opened up, we had a huge market gap towards the upside, breaking above these previous all-time highs. And as you guys can see, gold has just pretty much flown toward the upside and continued breaking new highs, printing new all-time highs, right? So going back into yesterday's trade, the first one that was sent out, which was a buy limit at 46.77, which was simply going to be the retest of this entire broken structure right over here, which is again previous all-time highs. So going into a Telegram, this was the first limit. It was 46.77. We also had a stop loss place at 46.65, right? So once price action pretty much broke above this entire structure, which was at 12 o'clock, which is this right over here, we were expecting for price action to give us a pretty much retracement, a deeper retracement back towards this area to retest all of this entire broken structure, right? Again, since price action had a huge breakout towards this highs over here, right? And then price action pretty much respecting the support right over here during yesterday's sessions. And obviously we took some buy position because of that. And price action giving us a nice breaking structure above these highs over here. It pretty much clearly shows us that obviously gold continues being in a very strong bullish conditions, right? So our main goal here should always be looking for buying positions, right? So pretty much once price session had the break towards the structure, like I told you guys, we were just expecting price session to give us the pullback, but it failed to give us the pullback. So we end up taking one position. It was going to be at 46.96, right? And also had a limit a little bit lower, which was at 46.93, right? So this was basically the first trade that we took today. And if we go over this trade over here, like I was explaining to you guys about the previous trade, we were looking for price action to give us a deeper pullback. But notice how price action just continue pushing higher, showing us that the strength was obviously strong, right? Now, going into a lower time frame perspective, this is pretty much where I caught this entry. So going into a lower time frame perspective, right? Once I sent out the limit, it was price action was right over here. Pretty much price action was already trading right above here. Oh, I don't know why this is not clicking. Let me just do it one more time. Price session was trading right above here. This is 12 o'clock, right? We got the nice break. And then notice on the minor time frame structure, we have these minor areas of previous resistance, which as you guys can see, price session did properly broke towards the upside. We came back, we retested, we used it as support. Price session continued pushing higher, right? Now, my idea here was very simple. I was looking to either one, wait for price action to give us a break and retest above these highs right over here, because notice how we kind of got into this minor ranges, right? This is not really a big range, but it came into minor ranges. And if you guys come over here on the 5-minute time frame, we're also trading above these entire 5-minute fair value gaps right over here, right? So we come back over here on the 1-minute time frame. The idea was very simple, saying, hey, if price action continues holding above these minor support, right? Because notice how we broke above previous highs, which has now turned into a previous highs over here, which was again resistance, which had turned into support. And price action just simply clearly just continues building up this bullish structure, which is highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, right? So if price action would have come back over here and respected and pretty much create as an equal low, that would have already given us a good buy confirmations, right? But there was two buy confirmations that I had at this point. I was either one, waiting for price action to actually create that equal low, pretty much grabbing the liquidity so it can continue the bullish trend towards the upside, or was waiting for price action to give me the break and retest. Basically the setup that happened right over here, break, retest, resistance turns into support, and then we buy the market, right? Again, this is all into a lower time frame. So basically last night I was scalping this entry. So pretty much once we got the pullback right over here, you guys can see the price action did respect of the 5-minute time frame bullish fair value gap, which is set right over here at 46.96. We go into the 1-minute time frame. We can see that this previous area's resistance had turned into a support, where price action has perfectly created an equal lows right over here, showing us that buyers are still protecting these zones, right? Again, if this trade over here would have failed, we had the buy limit pretty much set a little bit under, which would have been a clear trade, right? So this was basically a high risk entry, right? I'm pretty sure I told everyone this was a high risk. Or technically I told them to set up another limit at 46.93, which was going to be a little bit lower right over here at the exact support. But this was, again, a risky trade because originally our plan was for price action to give us a pullback towards the downside, right? But again, the scenarios, the buys continue being the same, right? At this point here, we're just looking for our entries, right? Confirmations, the trend, we are 100% correct. We're just looking for our entry. That was basically our entry of last night. And then obviously we just let price just fly towards the upside. Perfect, nice push towards the upside. Once we saw price action coming right over here, I set up a sell limit. So as you guys can see, every single take profit was hit. I set up a sell limit, which was as 47.19, 47.20. Pretty much once we saw this price action kind of declining again, since price action has been overbought. This is technically where all the traders, they want to pretty much just take away their profits. And whenever price action starts taking away, or whenever traders start taking their profits away, price obviously start declining in value, right? So this is multiple ways that price action has pullbacks, right? So in this case right over here, once we started seeing price action push towards the downside, and we haven't yet retested the actual structure that I was pretty much anticipating, the deeper pullback, that pretty much showed me like, hey, this is probably the end of this entire bullish value or rally towards the upside, right? This is probably the end. We have seen that seller has stepped into the market. I'm going to set up a limit a little bit higher towards these highs, because most likely we can just grab liquidity towards the highs and then continue selling off, right? So this was technically the idea that I was looking at for last night with this entire sell limit, right? But as you guys can see, obviously during the London session, just price action continued pushing higher. The same exact pattern continued doing, which again, it was highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. The bullish value continued. We have another push, highs, higher lows, and higher highs, right? Once we reach these zones over here, this is exactly where I woke up. I told everyone, hey, our stop loss unfortunately hit with our sell limit. Again, this was obviously a high risk sell because again, we're trading against the trend, right? In this case over here, price action is 100% bullish, right? But we were kind of looking for a counter trend trade, which would have made sense above here if price action actually would have done it right over here, would have been perfectly. And because this is the type of setup that I like to look for whenever we're basically looking for a retracement, whenever we take a previous high risk trade, right? So this is technically scalping the market at this point over here. This is the way that I like to scalp the market. Now, once price action obviously hit our stop loss, I was not active at that time. Woke up, we did see that price hit our stop loss. Then basically we hit our final take profit with this trade. I end up closing out this position early in the morning. This was at 6:51. I closed down my position at 370 pips. Let go of the New York session, was waiting for the time to click in one more time. And then once again, once we did see price action had a huge rejection towards these highs, right? This is basically where we secured the profits, right? So let's keep this in mind. We're going to highlight this. This is once price action reached over here. Just notice the scenario how price action shifted the entire structure. Check this out. What do we have here? We have price action forming a resistance. Once we sold off, we got another push towards the upside. Price action once again rejected and broke underneath structure right over here. So this was already another confirmation. Technically, we broke underneath the structure and we created a nice resistance, right? This right here was already another confirmation for me to actually give another sell, another attempt. So technically, I told everyone, hey, take this again. I'm in the market execution. This is a high risk trade, so apply proper risk management. Again, high risk, because if you guys kind of zoom out towards the higher picture or to the bigger picture, right, you guys can clearly see that price is still very much bullish, right? So the risk to reward was obviously going to be there. So I was obviously willing to take this trade one more time, following the trade, following the plan. We took this trade basically once price action broke underneath, and we took the entry right over here. Once we did close a nice bearish candle, we took the trade, but notice towards the left side. Notice what happened right over here. This is the probability, right? Notice how price action came back towards these previous areas of demand zone, right? This is again minor demands. These are lows over here, which price action pretty much swept out. So in this case over here, obviously, as you guys can see, it was just simply liquidity grab. I got faked out. I focused on the move that happened above here. Honestly, should have waited a little bit longer, just waited for price action to actually take underneath these lows, because as you guys can see, it was just simply a liquidity grab. So I got faked out on this trade, and if you guys look in the 15-minute time frame, how we just closed above these entire lows. 30-minute time frame did the same exact thing. We came back and we closed above, right? The only thing I was focusing on here, again, this is mostly on lower time frame structure. I was just focusing on how price action broke underneath this entire structure after creating this area of resistance, right? So check this out. This is technically what I was paying attention towards. Well, that basically told me, hey, take this sell one more time. The probabilities are there. So we have highs, resistance got respected. We got another pushback over here during the early New York session. Price action broke underneath structure. We came back, we retested, we closed underneath, boom, took the entry. Should have paid attention right over here to save that loss. But the good thing about this trade over here is that I told everyone to manage the risk, that I'm cutting my losses fully. So technically, once we respected this structure right over here and we close above these minor highs over here, this is where I told everyone to close out their position early, right? So close out the position early. What do we have right over here? We have new areas of resistance, right? Now, if you kind of go over here on the 15-minute time frame, 30-minute time frame, right? What you guys can see, that price action is simply clearly just going along with the trend. So we have highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. We got a high, we have a higher low, we have a high, and then we have a low. Respected, boom, broke structure one more time. We broke above previous all-time highs. We printed a new all-time highs, right? The only way that I actually would have given sell one more attempt would have simply been if price action would have actually, let me just do this because I did something wrong here. The only way that I would actually give a sell another attempt at this point over here would have simply been if we had this bearish candle. As you guys can see, this bearish candle would have actually closed underneath the 47.30. Because notice how with this candle right over here was already another good confirmation for me, another good potential confirmation for me, right? Again, I did not attempt to sell because we were obviously trading above, but this trade right over here, this candle, let me just grab the market. I don't know why I have all of this messed up. It's confusing sometimes. All right, right over here. So notice this candle right over here, which was 9 a.m. As you guys can see, we have a huge wick towards the upside, breaking above here, which is again a basic pattern, which most likely could have been simply liquidity grab before actually having the move towards the downside. This only would have confirmed if that this 15-minute time frame or 5-minute time frame bearish candle would have actually closed underneath 47.30. If we would have closed underneath the 47.30, then that would have gave me more confirmation to once again attempt to sell, right? That would have been the only way that I would have taken the sell, because again, we had to push towards the upside, but most likely this candle over here was already a signal of rejection towards the highs, right? Simply grabbing liquidity before having the next move. We close underneath, and then we also have this next candle open up bearish. The only thing that I did not like was just simply how we were trading above it, above these entire highs. And notice how we never closed underneath. So that's exactly why I never took the sell. But notice how price action, once we pretty much rejected it, we broke above these highs, basically retested, we closed above it, and then we had another push towards the upside, once again, creating a new all-time highs right over here. So once we created this new all-time highs, another good entry signal for us that, hey, it's super bullish. We're not going to be looking for sales. All we're going to be waiting for was now for price action to come back, pretty much retest this entire broken structure and pick up the liquidity towards the upside. So going over here, we closed out this position at 8:59. Basically 30 minutes later, we set up a buy limit at 47.31, 47.21, which is basically once we saw price action respecting these highs over here, we set up the limit right underneath here, showing us that, again, this is a good zone to continue buying the market. So we set up a buy limit right over here, which was technically coming back to retest this broken structure, retest all of this entire bullish displacement. And as you guys can see, price action just activate our trade by wick and perfectly shot towards the upside, which it did hit every single take profits, over 150 pips. Now, once we hit 150 pips, notice what happened next. We had a deeper pullback. I was still very much bullish, right? At this point over here, I was not really paying attention to the sell attempt that I gave earlier the New York session, right? Simply reason why was because after this huge push towards the upside, what are we printing? We're just simply printing new higher highs, which can now print the next higher low before having the next higher high, right? So obviously the bearish confirmations over here are not clear. The only way that I would have actually given bearish another attempt would have simply been if price action would have actually closed underneath these entire lows over here. But notice after we had this nice push, we had the first trade over here, we took the buys, and then price action had another deeper pullback. Notice exactly the zone where price action pulled back into. We pulled back into this exact areas of bullish fair value gap right over here, where price action hasn't fully retested, right? We were trading above it, but we haven't really fully retested. So boom, this was the second trade. I told everyone, hey, I'm gonna rebuy gold right now at 47.23. 47.23, 47.12 was underneath this entire lows. We had the nice push once again, hitting every single take profits, over 150 pips. Now, this trade over here sucks that I closed it out a little bit early because I told everyone to move their stop loss as 47.21. 31, which was going to be right over here, but notice how it wicked us out by an inch. And price action perfectly shot and would have given us our full trade over here, which would have been a 1 of 3. And that's exactly what I was looking for today, for an actual solid trade that would have given me, or pretty much play out with my entire trade. Because yes, we took one during the London session, which did play out very nice, exactly how we anticipated. But this trade over here during the New York session would have given us even a bigger reward. I managed to trade a little bit early, right? Because obviously we're trading all-time highs. Whenever price action is all-time high, there's a lot of things that can happen. It can continue pushing highs, or price action can have an actual switch and then continue pushing lower to pretty much clean up all of this entire traffic, right? So that was just me following my plan. I pretty much closed out the trade a little bit early. I got stopped out. I did close it out like $1,000 something, but still good profits, right? But overall, we would have let this trade play out. The mechanic, the setup over here would have been amazing, right? Because this is basically the type of trade that I like to take, right? We have the support, we have the break of structure, we have the imbalance here. We're just waiting for price action to pretty much grab the magnet. So this is the magnet. Price action is going to come back, activate the magnet, and continue pushing the market. Just simply going along with the trend. Very simple. Now, the last trade that I took today was this one right over here. This was taken during the early or late New York session, right? This is technically the late New York session trade that I took that played out for over 100 pips. This was the last trade that I took today as well. As you guys can see, this is the analysis that I sent out. This was at 124. I told, hey, gold continue to respect the bullish trend and it's not repeating the same pattern. Break, retest, breaking above previous all-time highs. It pulled back, retest, and rejected cleanly, right? Showing that previous resistance zone around 47.50, 47.60 is now acting as a support, which keep the trend very valid. So you guys can see this, right? It keeps the trend very valid. We had the break, we had the retest, support, resistance turned into support, continue pushing higher. Very simple. And then basically I was waiting for the hourly candle. So we go here on the 1 hour time frame. I was waiting for this 1 hour candle to close above these highs. Same thing on the 30 minutes. I was waiting for this 30 minute to close above these highs, which as you guys can see, it perfectly did. So at this point over here, we're just going to go into a lower time frame. We're going to look for technically what happened right over here. We're going to look for it in the lower time frame, and that happened right over here. So we got another break of structure, and then we just set up the limit right over here at 47.56. And as you guys can see, we did end up hitting take profit too. I told everyone to, hey, secure your profits, secure partial profits, and we're now risk free. and perfectly played out. So all we did today was just technically took a lot of one-on-ones. This was the big trade of the day, right, that happened during the London session, but I really wanted this one over here to play out because this was technically the exact system that we use. All of this trade that we took today was just simply going along with the trend, just waiting for the entry confirmation. This one over here was actually the setup that I wanted to play out. But at the end of the day, everything played out good, exactly how we planned. We follow our trading plan. We traded exactly what we trade, and the result speaks for itself, right? I hope you guys did enjoy this entire free signal that you guys took today inside the free Telegram. And if you guys have any questions, always feel free to comment down below. I will continue sending you guys more free signals, and I'm also going to be sending you guys this breakdown inside here, our Telegram. So I'll see you guys again on Thursday for the free signals. Peace.